What would you risk to do what's right? The question hung in Clara's mind as she stood behind the counter of the upscale bakery, her apron stained with flour and guilt. She'd seen him again today, the homeless man, his eyes hollow but kind, lingering near the dumpster out back. Yesterday, she'd slipped him a loaf of day-old bread, a small act that felt like defiance in a world that demanded she look away. But her boss, Mr. Hargrove, had caught her on the security feed. His voice was ice when he fired her that evening. "We don't feed strays, Clara. This is a business, not a charity." She walked home through the city's pulse, her boots heavy on the cracked sidewalk. 25, jobless, with rent due in a week, yet the sting of Hargrove's words cut deeper than fear. Was compassion a luxury she couldn't afford? That night, she barely slept, replaying the man's grateful nod, the warmth of giving despite the cost. Morning broke, and Clara dragged herself to the bakery's alley, hoping to find the man, to apologize, to offer something, anything. Instead, she found chaos. A crowd spilled onto the street, their voices a low roar. At the center stood a man in a worn military jacket, his face weathered but fierce. He held a megaphone, his words sharp. "This woman fed me when no one else would. And you fired her for it." Clara froze, her heart hammering. The man, she recognized him now, the one she'd given bread to as no ordinary drifter. His name was Tom, a veteran who'd fallen through society's cracks but hadn't lost his fire. He'd rallied others, and now, before her, stood nearly 200 soldiers, veterans, active duty, men and women of every age lined up in silent protest outside the bakery. Their faces were stone, their presence a wall of honor Hargrove couldn't ignore. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I didn't do much. Just a loaf of bread." Tom turned, his eyes softening. "You saw me when no one else did. That's everything." The twist came then, unexpected and raw. A woman emerged from the crowd, her hair gray, her posture regal despite her simple coat. Clara didn't know her, but the soldiers parted for her like she was royalty. "My son," the woman said, her voice breaking, was one of them. "He came home broken, and this city let him die on the streets. You fed a man like him, Clara. You gave him dignity." The woman's words landed like a punch, shifting the air. Clara's act, so small in her eyes, rippled outward, touching lives she'd never known. The soldiers began to chant her name, not as a hero but as a symbol of what they'd lost and what they fought for. Hargrove appeared at the bakery's door, his face pale, his usual swagger gone. The crowd's gaze pinned him, and for once, he had no words. Clara met his eyes, not with anger, but with quiet resolve. "You were wrong," she said. "Kindness isn't weakness. It's what holds us together." The standoff stretched, taut and electric. Then, a soldier stepped forward, placing a folded flag on the bakery's doorstep, a silent tribute to the fallen, to the forgotten. One by one, others followed, leaving medals, dog tags, letters. The pile grew, a monument of sacrifice Hargrove couldn't dismiss. Clara's throat tightened. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was carrying their stories, their pain, their hope. Tom handed her the megaphone, and though her hands shook, her voice didn't. "This isn't about me," she said. "It's about seeing each other. About doing what's right, no matter the cost." The crowd erupted, their cheers a wave that drowned out Hargrove's world. By noon, news vans arrived, cameras flashing. By evening, the bakery's social media was flooded with calls for boycott and for Clara's rehiring. Hargrove caved, offering her job back, but Clara refused. She'd found something bigger than a paycheck: purpose. Days later, she and Tom started a community kitchen, funded by donations that poured in from strangers moved by her story. The soldiers helped, their hands steady as they served meals to those society had cast aside. Clara learned their names, their losses, their dreams. Each plate she handed out felt like a promise. No one would be invisible again. What would you risk to do what's right? Clara had her answer. It wasn't just a loaf of bread, it was her heart, her fight, her humanity. And in that alley, under the city's unyielding sky, she'd won. Yindi.